Hey guys, Chad Hoover, KayakBassFishing TV, and today we're going to talk about tournament fishing and how to break down a body of water. All right guys, so here's the deal. I can't talk about tournament preparation and how to be a better tournament angler without first addressing how to be a better angler, right? And so I've talked about this in the past in another video. I'll link that up above and I'll put the link in the description box. And that's what I like to refer to as the 60-30-10 rule. Not a big fan of rules, but this one just seems to resonate, and it's something that I have been able to kind of wrap my head around and own. I didn't come up with it. I don't know where I heard it. It's just one of those kind of things that's been passed along to me, and it was passed along to me in another career field, and I'm kind of translating it to fishing. And that's what I like to refer to, like I said, as the 60-30-10 rule. So to make it visual, because a lot of us as anglers are visual, I'm using this really high-tech graphic called a cardboard flap that I cut off a box before I started this video. And so I wrote this out a little bit ahead of time, and I created a knowledge bucket. That's a representation of a bucket. I created a preparation bucket, and then I created a luck bucket, right? I always like it when you come back from fishing and the guy at the boat ramp, the first thing they say too is, "Any luck?" Or when you paddle past or drive past another angler out on the water, the first thing we ask each other is, "Any luck?" You know, nobody ever says, "Hey, how prepared were you before you come out here? Has that paid off for you? How long have you been fishing? Are your skills being put to the test?" We always say, "Any luck?" And so the answer to that question is always yes, because there's always some luck involved, and we can't eliminate that from the fishing equation. But we can eliminate as much of it as we possibly can. And as they say, luck favors the prepared. What that means is when you put yourself in the position to be lucky more often, you're gonna be luckier, you know, by the definition of what people who don't prepare themselves call lucky. So let me just break this down real simple. Knowledge is, in my opinion, is in three categories. You've got your experience knowledge, that knowledge you gain from doing it. That time on the water. Now, I know that those sound like the same thing, but they're different. That time on the water falls more into the amount of things you've observed, the amount of things you've seen, how much condition changing you've been a part of. You can not have a lot of time on the water and have experience. You can have experience and not have a lot of time on the water. So I break those up into two categories, and we'll talk about those separately in another video. Or you can go back and watch some of my other videos where I've talked about that extensively. And then there's intellectual knowledge. So intellectual knowledge is the reading, the researching, the watching other videos, what you're doing right now. And it's that preparation that you get from rote memorization, from learning, from observing others. Combined, all of that makes up your knowledge bucket. Your preparation bucket is your pre-trip planning, your research of the body of water, your understanding of the seasonal progression, your understanding of solunar times and things like that for the area, your grasp of what's going on with the weather or the trends, the trend of the weather, the trend of temperature in a particular area. So in my opinion, that's preparation. How much research, study, tools you've put in your favor for fishing a particular location, whether that's maps, electronics, waypoints, electronic information sharing with other anglers. That, in my opinion, falls under the preparation category, and that's about 30% of your success. 10% to a lot of really experienced anglers seems high on the luck factor, but the problem is you've always got things that are variables beyond your control. How much pressure there is from other anglers, how much boat traffic there is, how many, you know, the weather, right? So a lot of that stuff affects the luck side. So I consider luck about a 10%, 10% variable when you have a 30% preparation standard and you've got 60% knowledge. So what I'm going to do here is tell you that the way that this works, the way that you kind of balance how you're going to be successful, is think about it like this. If you don't have knowledge, if you don't have experience, you're relying more on preparation. And so you got to take some of this 60% and move it to this bucket. If you don't have knowledge or preparation, you have to rely more on luck. If you have knowledge, but you don't prepare and you don't do any planning, you're still relying more on luck. So if you have zero preparation, it's going to be 60% knowledge and 40% luck, okay? So that's really what it boils down to. There are some really great instinctual anglers out there that go out, but they're using their knowledge and they're compensating for these two. And then there's some people that prepare really well that don't have a lot of luck and don't need a lot of luck, and they always have a lot of knowledge because they gain knowledge through preparation. So these two are tied together, and this one is tied to whichever one of these you neglect. So let's tie that to tournament fishing. Okay, so you want to go out and you want to be successful for fishing. So that's one question. A lot of guys, when I did the call out for asking me your questions, ask about how to break down a body of water. So I'm going to talk about how to break down a body of water. Any body of water, whether it is north-south running, angled, east-west, I break down into upper, middle, and lower, okay? Upper being the dam end or the deeper end or the north end, depending on how it's set up. Middle being that generally the larger part, the more bulbous part, the most expanse. And then the lower being the part where it tapers out, turns back into a river, drains, or gets the shallowest and things like that. And so depending on the time of year that you're fishing, right now we're in that late summer to early fall transition. So I'm going to talk about that one specifically in this video, and then I'll come back to you with a fall into winter preparation video, a winter into spring, and then a spring into summer. And we're going to get really detailed with this. And this year, as I'm shooting, I'm gathering some of the video assets to better illustrate those points. So stay tuned for a lot of that. I'm really excited about this new series. So let's take where we're at right now and let's break it down. I'm going to divide my body of water into three. So for the most part, this time of year, I'm going to focus on the middle, okay? Those fish are working their way towards, you know, creek mouths or inflows. They're staging on mid-lake humps. They're staging on creek mouths, and they're waiting on that shad migration up the creeks to start to happen. So you can find them staging, you can find them starting to work their way into the creeks, and you can find them on your main river ledges, edges, channels, things like that, and then the ditches and creeks leading out of and into your creek mouth. So what I do though is really simple. I take that middle and then I divide it in half, okay? I decide which half I'm gonna fish. That depends on the time of day. That depends on the prevailing winds or weather. For the most part, cooler weather is moving in. Any weather coming in this time of year is cooler, okay? It's gonna drop the temperatures. That cooler air is gonna cool the surface temperature. That's gonna blow that wind to that side of the lake, which is gonna take that cooler water. Cooler water is heavier and denser than warm water. It's gonna blow it to that side, and as soon as it gets over there, it's gonna start to sink through the water column, and it's gonna cool the water off. It's also gonna blow your phytoplankton, zooplankton, and all the stuff that your filter feeders feed on to that side of the lake. And when those shad are starting to work their way into the migration, that's where they're gonna go. Your brim are gonna move in. You know, all of your bait fish are gonna be activated on that side of the lake, which is gonna bring in the predators. But you can't fish the entire thing. So you have to have a plan. And for the most part, if I'm gonna break down a particular location, I set myself a 3-day plan. 1 day of pre-fishing, 2 days of pre-fishing, and then a 3rd day of pre-fishing / refinement. And so what I like to do is I like to take the lake and divide it in half. And let's just say that the wind is out of this direction for the week leading up to this, and it's cooling off. Then I'm gonna choose this side. I'm gonna choose the side that's being pounded by the wind. And then I'm gonna divide that into thirds, and I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna break those down. What I'm gonna do though, flipping back to my preparation bucket, okay? Flipping back to my knowledge bucket, is I'm gonna take that 3 parts of the lake, and I'm gonna specifically nail down some targets and waypoints and places that I wanna check out. I'm gonna have a milk run, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it. I'm gonna have some things that I'm gonna go check. Sometimes I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna fish it. Sometimes I'm just gonna go there and graph it. And sometimes I'm just gonna go there and lay eyes on it, okay? So I'm gonna break this down into 3 parts, and I'm gonna divide those into 3 days. Now, if you don't have 3 days, if you've got 1 day, you might wanna do a run and gun where you check a spot here, check a spot here, and check a spot here, but I still use that divided in thirds principle. I wanna know, are they just moving mid-lake? Are they establishing mid-lake? Are they starting to move out of mid-lake? Right? Are they moving up into mid-lake? Are they established in mid-lake? Are they starting to work into the upper part of the lake? So that little bit of research and that 3-day plan is gonna help me break down that body of water. A lot of people look at an overwhelming size of a lot of our lakes in this country and just don't know where to start. They Google best fishing places and go fish the ramp that somebody says is best, the one that Google's the best. 9 times out of 10, that is your fair weather fishermen that fish the majority of the days that make that thing rank the best. So it could very well be the lower end in the spawning area of some of your lakes. It could be the northwest corner in your primary spawning flats and that boat ramp up there that's super popular. But for the rest of the year, those fish are mid-lake or lower for the summer. So break your body of water down into thirds, then divide that third into halves, and then divide that half into thirds. You'll be more successful. Take that concept for breaking body of water down, work on your knowledge, your preparation, leave less to luck, and you'll be more successful. Guys, I hope this helps. This is a very systematic approach to fishing tournaments. It's also a systematic approach to learning and developing yourself as an angler. Now, the last thing I'll throw into that equation is you can improve all of this by fishing with another angler. You can divide and conquer. You can use the buddy system. You can use the buddy lure concept, and you can just catch fish faster, and you can develop a pattern that much quicker. I'm Chad Hoover, KayakBassFishing TV. I hope you like this type of video. I hope you appreciate the amount of work that went into these high-end props that we're using in this video. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like it. As always, leave a comment below. If you're new to the channel, I hope you like it. I hope this is a great first impression. Smash that subscribe button and do me a favor and be sure to watch another one of our videos here at KayakBassFishing TV. And I'll see you next time. Oh yeah, guys, one more thing so I don't have to do a completely different video, and to give you one more little tip for making this work. In case you thought this was the upper water column, middle water column, and lower water column, it's actually not. This is the upper section of the lake, the middle section of the lake, and the lower section of the lake. But here's the deal. Break this down. Use this same concept for figuring out where the fish are. Decide if they're in the upper part of the water column, the middle part of the water column, the lower part of the water column, and then redefine and define that presentation to hit that specific area. And then you can take all this, put it together, and decide how to catch them once you decide where to catch them. So anyway, upper water column, middle water column, lower water column, that's where the fish are going to be positioned. Figure out where that's going to happen. Use all this other stuff, tie that all together, and you're going to catch a lot of fish.